For USCFootball.com, I'm Nicole Shearin here with Shotgun Spratling after the UCLA Bruins beat the Trojans 69-59 in the semifinal game of the Pac-12 basketball tournament here at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. So, Shotgun, what are your immediate takeaways after this matchup?
One, that all the USC people can go out and enjoy the night because there's not going to be a tomorrow for USC. They're eliminated from the Pac-12 tournament. You look at it and you look at the way they're playing, and there's a little bit of concern. I mean, USC, I think they were, had won 25 of their first 29 games. They've lost 3 of their last 4 now. Now, obviously, those are tough opponents against UCLA and Arizona. That's the type of teams they're going to see the next couple weeks. There's not going to be any more Washingtons. There's not going to be any more Oregon States where you can play not your best and still find a way to survive and advance. You got to be able to play at the your top level the entire time, and USC just hasn't been able to do that recently. Unfortunately, it seems like when their defense is really good, the offense can't find a way to get going. When their offense, they're making a lot of tough shots, the defense is giving things up, or they're turning the ball over too much. It just feels like they're not getting that complete effort, and that's really concerning with how good this season has been for USC, the way they are playing going into the March Madness tournament next week.
UCLA had their top 4 leading scorers all hit double digits tonight. So what does this show about how effective the Trojans' defense was?
Yeah, UCLA makes a lot of tough shots. They are good one-on-one players. Jaime Jaquez has been elite recently, had a great performance against USC on Saturday in Pauley Pavilion. He carried that over again, 19 points on 6 of 9 shooting, and he got to the free throw line. That was the thing. UCLA, they did a great job of getting into the paint and getting fouled or making some shots. They almost shot 50% for the game. They also got to the free throw line for 21 free throws. So USC just didn't have an answer. USC going through the game, they fell behind early and couldn't catch up. They got down to 4 points early in the second half, but a 7-0 run by UCLA, and USC never had an answer. They never got closer to 6 points after that because they couldn't get enough stops in a row. They 3 times in the game they got 3 stops in a row, and that was it. When USC has been really good, you saw against Washington last night, they held Washington at 3 of 20 shooting at the end of the game. These long stretches where they can make up some points, and but that wasn't the case tonight. They just couldn't find an answer defensively for UCLA.
Reese Dixon-Waters for the Trojans was out tonight with a strained groin and leg injury. How did that affect the Trojan team?
Yeah, I think it affected them because he's a guy that can come in and give you minutes off the bench. He is a good defender, which would help in some of those situations. USC did get Isaiah White back, which helped. He played a couple of minutes. They got to get him in the flow a little bit, but he was able to provide some energy off the bench, and you thought maybe he could come in and provide a little bit of a spark with Reese Dixon-Waters not being in. But Reese Dixon-Waters, the other thing he does is he can make shots from the outside, and USC shot, I think, 41%, which is not terrible on three-point shooting, but they needed somebody to hit a couple more shots for them. If that happens, maybe USC can find their way back into this game, but it just wasn't the case for them without him.
If there's one player for the Trojans who tried to carry this team offensively, it was Boogie Ellis, tied a career-high 27 points tonight. What do you have to say about his performance?
He was outstanding. He made I think 5 threes. He was able to get to the basket. We saw him scoring on 3 different levels, which is something that we thought coming in. This is kind of the Boogie Ellis you expected this season a little bit more frequently, and he's tried to find his way and figure it out. The problem was when he went off and he gets 27 points, no one else really did anything. Drew Peterson had 11 points. He was a pretty efficient night, but he was the only other player in double figures. Both USC's post players, Chavez Goodwin and Isaiah Mobley, struggled from the field, combining to shoot 6 for 18. So when you're not getting that post play as well as the outside shooting, then it's hard to kind of get that complete balance for USC. So Boogie did as much as he could. He kept him in it. He had back-to-back threes at times to cut the deficit, but they could never catch up because they couldn't get enough defensive stops.
The Bruins were at the line a lot tonight. They shot 21 free throws. How did this hurt the Trojans in this game?
It was their ability to get into the lane, to get towards the rim. When USC wasn't able, they couldn't get stops. Even with UCLA shooting 48%, if they don't get to the free throw line, USC might be in this game a little bit tighter. But when you allow them to get to the line, and they made a good amount of them shooting 17 for 21, and you also let them shoot well from 48% from the field, 50% on threes. There was just not enough stops from USC. They couldn't stop them, whether they were getting to the free throw line or just shooting without the fouls as well.
USC's offense only had 6 assists tonight. So what does this show about the struggles offensively for this team?
Yeah, it's a little bit too much hero ball still. It's a lot of dribble, take a shot. There's not a lot of ball movement, and when USC's at its best this season, we've seen them be crisp with the ball movement. Too many times the ball is just getting stuck where one player's trying to do a little bit too much. Now, that can work if you know when to take a good shot, when to take a bad shot, but sometimes USC gets into a habit, they run some stuff, and then they're late in the shot clock, and they're forcing up bad shots, whereas UCLA, they're a very similar team where they do a lot of one-on-one activity, isolation plays, but they do a good job of when they don't have a good shot, they pass the ball out and someone else then tries to attack. USC, at times the ball gets stuck and they don't share the ball well enough. They got to have a little bit more ball movement, a little bit more movement away from the ball as well. Some guys cutting and slashing. And that's one of the things that Reese Dixon Waters does really well is, finding himself behind the defense, finding himself under the basket for some easy buckets. I thought Kobe Johnson stepped in and had a nice game for him. We did see Isaiah White have a couple of impactful minutes, but, Reese Dixon Waters could have added an extra element as well.
Now, one positive change I did notice in this game tonight is that the Trojans fixed the turnover issue. They had 9 each, so did UCLA. So how do you think this kind of momentum carries over into the NCAA tournament next weekend?
Yeah, they snapped their streak. They had 9 consecutive games where they had double-digit turnovers, so they snapped that streak. That's a positive development. USC has been shooting really well the last few games before tonight, making some tough shots. So, there's some things you could look at, and like if they can get it together, they could be, they could be a team that goes on a run, but that's the big question. Can you find a way to bounce back from this and settle in? Last year, they lost at the same point in the tournament. They lost to Colorado on a tip-in, came back and had a great March Madness NCAA tournament run. So let's see if they can bounce back from it now. Being able to take care of the ball is first and foremost on the offensive side, but then making some more shots. I thought UCLA's defense was really good, and especially down low, I thought Miles Johnson was really good for them, protecting the rim. USC, when they face a 7-footer who can protect the rim, they've got to find a way to be able to get him off his feet, get him in some foul trouble, and they weren't able to do that tonight. Chavez Goodwin, like I said, and Isaiah Mobley both struggling down in the post, and because of that, I think that was one of the reasons why they weren't able to get this win.
The Trojans are a projected 5-7 seed in the NCAA tournament. So how do you see this shaking down for this team?
Yeah, you look at the bracketology, and this morning they moved up to the 5 line for CBS's Jerry Palm. They'll probably slide back now. A lot of these bracketologies are where if the season ended right now. So now when USC takes this loss, they're now 4-4 in quad 1 games. I believe they're 9-5, 9-6 in quad 1 and quad 2 games. So there's not a ton to hang their hat on in this. They have the 1 win over UCLA, but that's their only top 25 win this season. So, it's going to be interesting to see where they land. For USC's sake, they are probably hoping they'd get at least a 6 seed. I don't think a 5 seed is going to be in the cards, but if they can get a 6 seed, they avoid a 2 seed. I think that's a huge thing if you can avoid a 1 or 2 seed in the opening weekend. If they end up a 7, even if they win that first game, they're going to be more than likely facing a 2 seed in that second game. That's really tough because the top 8 teams are usually the elite of the elite. So we'll see if USC can get a 3 seed. You remember last year they played as a 6 seed and beat Kansas, beat them thoroughly. So a 3 seed, I just think there's a big drop off between the 2nd seed and the 3 seed. So we'll see where they land. They're hoping for a 6 seed probably at best right now. If they end up as a 7, we'll see where they get shipped off and who's the 2 seed that they'll be facing in that second round if they were to get to there.
Now, this is the end of the road in Vegas for the Trojans in this Pac-12 tournament, but Shotgun, do you have any final thoughts from T-Mobile Arena?
No, good atmosphere tonight. Obviously a lot of the place cleared out when the Arizona fans left. It should be an amazing atmosphere tomorrow night for the championship game between Arizona and UCLA. Unfortunately, USC won't be here, and I think there won't be many USC fans in attendance. I think they'll be taking their trip back to LA for this one, and just waiting on Sunday to see where the Trojans are going to be next weekend, whether that's Portland, San Diego, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. It could be anywhere around the country, so it's a big wait and see right now. I think the coaching staff is going to have to get back to work and try to figure out a way to get the offense going at the same time as the defense, because that's an issue for them right now.
Well, the fate of the Trojans all lies in the selection committee for Selection Sunday. We'll find out what seed they are and who they face in this March Madness tournament. But for Shotgun Spratling, I'm Nicole Shearin, and check out uscfootball.com for more.